Thank you, Jess. Good afternoon, everyone. This afternoon, we are delighted to be uh, graced in this occasion of learning with the presence of a very expert speaker in the field of hospitality. He is a graduate. He graduated a degree of Bachelor of Science in Hotel and Restaurant Management. No, Bachelor of Science in Hotel and Restaurant Administration at no less than the top school no in the Philippines, University of the Philippines, in April of 1992. He started his exposure in the hospitality on the same year of his graduation as captain waiter at EDSA Shangri-La Hotel. In July 1996 to July 2005, he became a part of Plantation Bay Resort and Spa family as a restaurant manager. In July 2005 to September 2008, he became the assistant food and beverage manager at Movenpick Hotel. And finally, currently to date, he is the training manager of J Park Island Resort and Water Park, Mactan, Cebu. He started his career as a food and beverage manager there from February 2009 to 2016. And immediately after that, he became the training manager. My dear students, let us welcome with a virtual round of applause Sir Michael Venluan. Maayong hapon, sir.
Hi, maayong hapon. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Miss Fararen. My apologies. I was already listening earlier to the previous presenter, and then my connection got lost. I had to transfer to another desktop.
No problem, good
Ako,
sir. That's all
gonna,
right.
yeah. Sige po, may apologies talaga. Yeah. So, sige, maybe we can start. Good afternoon, students from UCLM. So for the next maybe 30 minutes to an hour or so, we'll be discussing human resource development, home for greater opportunities, even in the face of COVID-19. Good afternoon. Sige. To give you a brief background, as mentioned by Ms. Ferraren, I only joined the human resources team here in J Park, formerly Imperial Palace, way back 2016. So basically, I've been here only for less than 6 years pa lang. My field of expertise before this was in operations, specifically food and beverage service. Um, since 1992 until 2016, I was with the F&B service, in different properties, in Manila and in Cebu. Even before when I was studying, I was also part of the food and beverage industry, as a part-time waiter in several fast food establishments, in Manila. So, question, parang it's kind of ano ba, unusual, for somebody in operations, to be transferred or to be heading the training or learning and development department of a big establishment or resort such as J Park. You know, um, I've been in the industry siguro since 92, so pila ka years na 30 years. Yeah, 30, yeah, exactly 30 years this year. So and in operations plays a big part of the hospitality and tourism and travel industry, wherein the background, of operations plays a vital role, with regards to learning and development and training. One of the reasons, siguro, the owners and the management of J Park opted to get me as training manager way back 2016 is because of my of the exposure, in operation. Sabi nga nila, you couldn't teach what you don't know, and experience for me has been the best teacher. Just like you, I was a student, a student that I graduated from hospitality and restaurant administration. Now in UP, it's the same. We now call it hospitality management, but during my time, it's called HRA, or previously it was HRM, hotel and restaurant management. So in school, ibang-iba talaga. The theories that you learn, even though if you have practicals and exposure. I was interned, in two big institutions in Manila, for my restaurant phase, I was interned in the Philippine Airlines in-flight catering. We were able to during that time it was still operational way back 1991. The establishment or the facility, prepares basically 12,000 to 15,000 meals a day for different airlines, no international airlines that passes through the Philippines. And for the hotel phase, I was interned in the Philippine Peninsula, or the Peninsula Hotel, no, in Manila. So basically, ibang-iba talaga. Even though you were trained or you were exposed in your OJT training as in the hotel or restaurant, or even different aspects or different facets of the hospitality or the hotel industry, when you get exposed, in operations, it's a really different ball ball field. It's a different area as compared to just training and learning it in school. So going back, after 20 plus years now in operations and F&B operations, F&B service operations, I was given the chance to lead the training team, of J Park Island Resort, and without hesitation, I grabbed the opportunity. One way to impart, to the best of my abilities, the skills and the knowledge, and the abilities that I have learned for the past 24 years, in F&B service operations, was to practically teach, and not just F&B service, but the different aspects of the hotel, the entire hotel operations. So can we go to the next slide, please? So what is, human resource development? It's a very, the slide is kind of long, but basically it says, the two major parts is, human resource development can be conducted formally, through classroom and through training and education, and practically through mentorship and coaching. And that's what happened to us. Many of us, basically, if you were in the old school, before you get into HR, you need to have background, in human resources, psychology, and so on. But in terms of getting people, okay, from operations, it's a kind of a paradigm shift with regards to the different leaders of the hospitality. Ibang ano yun, ibang mentality. Sometimes, when you work with F&B, your whole career, you will start and you will retire with F&B. Sometimes, if you're lucky, you get to be promoted, to be hotel manager or general manager. But sometimes there, just like if you see my background, I started as a waiter actually, in fast food restaurants, and then as a supervisor, manager, and a department head. And eventually a chance was given, for me to impart my knowledge and the skills that I have learned for the past 2 decades or so. And that's through mentorship and coaching. Okay. Through education and training, yes. And that's part of my job description, is to coach and to educate, and to impart the learning and the development of what we have learned for the past 2 decades or so. The main objective of human resource management is to ensure that staff has an excellent experience while at work, so the organization can achieve its goals. Okay, excellent experience is a very broad term. There's a saying that, if you love what you do, you don't have to work a single day of your life, because if you're happy with your work. Some people, just like me, I could say that, F&B was my passion, and teaching F&B was a greater calling for me. Teaching operations, imparting the knowledge, of operations was a greater calling for me. And that, for me itself, basically, it's just like learning. I'm not working. I'm just basically teaching, and enjoying what I do. HRM has other objectives, providing easy access to data, ensuring availability of resources, managing payroll, ensuring total compliance, to make the organization successful. So malaki siya. When we started, J Park, formerly we were known as Imperial Palace when we opened way back 2009. To give you a brief background, Imperial Palace was formerly known as, J Park Island Resort was formerly known as Imperial Palace Hotel or Imperial Palace Resort. We opened 2009, and then we were known as Imperial Palace up until 2014 for 5 years. When I was hired, I was one of the first, very few lucky officers that was hired before opening. So I was tasked to lead the food and beverage service department. I have a I have a counterpart, the executive chef, that leads the culinary or the kitchen department. So for several months, I was tasked to ensure that the standards are created, the service sequence are formulated, the layout of the physical layout of the restaurants are done, and so on and so forth. But basically, the most fruitful and the most satisfying was training our team, before we opened. So that was really a big challenge, but I enjoyed it a lot. Um, when that happened, training people, and you see that what you have taught them is being practiced, in its purest essence, in the real world. Walang ano yun eh, walang there's no reward for that, because you were part of that success. You were part of that operations. However, whatever success or failures that the hotel has encountered, for the past 13 years, I was part of that. We were part of that from the start. So it's good that I have been part of the hotel when it opened before I was transferred to the training department, because I know the history of the hotel. I know its market. I know its, basically I'm familiar with its people. I'm familiar with the owners. I'm familiar with the operations, the history, the culture, which is very important, which we will discuss later. And when I entered human resources, HR, I'm not, I'm not groping in the dark, ika nga, because I'm quite familiar with the team. So can we go to the next slide, please? Sorry, I have a few more. Can you go back to the previous slide? To give you a brief background, when I started my career in hospitality and hotel and tourism, HR was totally, even F&B service was totally a different field, in such a way that we had different names. We have different nomenclatures. Human resources before was called the personnel department, and then a few years later, maybe in the 90s, the Philippines adapted that term human resources, human resources management. And then eventually now many establishments, including us, we term our team as the people management, team. We manage people, not just humans, our team. So you can see the evolution, from the nomenclature alone. Training department, from the 70s up until the 80s, it was known as the training department. But when the 90s started, the nomenclature or the terminology evolved. It was termed as the learning and development department up until now. Recruitment before was known as recruitment. Now a more politically correct term for it, in which we also adapted, was talent acquisition and management. Because what you get are not, you don't just recruit people, you recruit their talents. You recruit them as talented individuals, people with competencies, people with skills, people with the right fit, and so on and so forth. Even in different parts of the hotel, iba-iba rin yung terms. Before it was called the sales department, and then eventually it evolved into the business development department. Okay. Engineering was called before property and maintenance, evolved into engineering. Okay. Sorry, maintenance evolved into engineering, and then evolved into property and maintenance department, and so on and so forth. Culinary was known before as the kitchen production department. Kitchen department now, in its more broader sense, is called the culinary department. So many evolutions, from the nomenclature alone, which includes human resources as well. Why? Because we evolve. 5 years ago, we never had, or 10 years ago, we never had social media. So 5 years ago, we created a digital marketing specialist, to fill the need, for a person that manages our social media and other accounts. Dati marketing lang. You have the graphic artist, you have the marketing coordinator, and you have the PR manager. Now it's totally different playing ball field. because there are so many, you know, ika nga, in one of the, you know, favorite short clips that I have watched, history is being made now. It doesn't get made; it's being made now. The evolution of information and digital technology is exponential. Every year, you get new information. You get new technology. Okay? Like when I was um, orienting the new batch of our interns or practicumers last March, I asked them a question. All of us are who's familiar with what's happening in Ukraine? What has happened in Ukraine, for the past 2 months? Ano nangyayari doon? Anyone? It's all in the news, I'm sure.
Russia, Russia's trying to take over Ukraine, sir.
Yeah. So basically, ini-invade, no? Ini-invade ng Russia and Ukraine. And during the first few days of the Russian invasion, alleged, Russians don't want to call it an invasion. They want to call it a military operation. But basically, in its purest sense, it's an invasion. They have declared war. Correct, no? It's Cherry May invasion. They invaded Ukraine. During the first 2 days of the invasion, of the declaration of war against Ukraine, the first thing that suffered was connectivity, internet. So one of their secretaries or ministers, appealed to the U.S., who's known for having the most advanced, telecommunication and internet services in the world, and they appealed to specifically one person. They said, "No, please provide us with internet." Putol yung kanilang wires, baksak yung kanilang towers. They don't have any hardware. They don't have any infrastructure for internet, except except their devices and their gadgets. In a matter of 3 or 4 days, they got internet. They don't have towers, they don't have cables, they don't have wires, they don't have fiber. Pero they were given internet, And we saw from that start, when the moment they got their internet, we saw what was happening in Ukraine in real time. Ganun kabilis. And everybody was wondering what happened. Paano nangyari yun? Walang cell towers, walang fiber optic wires, walang cable wires, to provide internet. What happened? Can anybody give a wild guess how they were provided with internet and connectivity so that the rest of the world can see what's happening inside Ukraine in real time? That's how fast technology is. Alam niyo kung sino nakapagbigay ng internet and connection sa kanila?
USA.
Yeah, exactly. Sino? What company? Who provided them? What person or what company specifically provided them with internet without towers, without cables? Elon Musk, correct. And how did Elon Musk do it? Everybody knows Elon Musk. SpaceX, diba? Tesla, and so on.
Yes, sir.
How did Elon Musk do it? And that we will see, how quick the evolution of technology is. So
Satellite, sir.
Satellite, yes. Uy, Miss Jessica, diyan ka pala.
Hi, sir.
Good afternoon. So alam na nila yan because I gave them the answer during the orientation. The company of Elon Musk, Tesla, was able to provide internet, to Ukraine without using cables, without using fibers, and without using towers, just by simply launching his satellites, his internet satellites. Ang term niya doon, Starlink. And it was given its acid test, ika nga, sa Ukraine. Nobody did it before. What Elon Musk did was he got something that was working perfectly. He even made it better. Diba? No need for towers, no need for cables, and so on. Okay? So what we're saying is, us in the hospitality and even us in the human resources department, we have to be aware of those, how quick technology is, how we have to shift our mindset. Ang technology ganun kabilis. Before 2G, 3G, 4G or LTE, ngayon 5G na tayo, but with Mr. Elon Musk, wala. He has satellite technology to bring internet, to certain parts of the world. And right now, even the Philippines is doing it. So how do I connect this with human resources? Is because we need to learn that, because it's part of learning and development. It's part of training. It's part of you're the first generation that's technologically savvy, or tawag nga sa inyo is digital natives. Pinanganak kayo, alam nyo na, you're already familiar with cell phones, laptops, computers, social media, Netflix, and so on. You're the first generation that's not familiar, how it is to have without internet, without digital technology. And you are very, very adept to that. And that's one of your biggest advantage, to know, digital technology, because digital natives kayo. Okay, can we go back to can we proceed to the next slide, please? So human resources principles. No? Do we have any questions so far, by the way? Okay, no questions. You can type in, you can open your mics. Thank you. So human resources principles, basically they're quite broad, but we can put them in so much in very few phrases and sentences, which we can elaborate later. Number one is deal with people as complete individuals. How do we do this? Kasi tao lahat, including us. We are all people. We are not robots. No, we are not workers that doesn't have family. We have families. We have friends. We have to take that into the equation. And how do we take that into the equation? By giving physical support, mental support, and even psychosocial support. Paano yun, di ba? Annual medical exams, okay? Trainings, sometimes even team buildings or breaks. Give them breaks, yung mga activities. Fellowship, bonding, team building, Christmas parties, di ba? Yung mga monthly birthday parties natin, that alone will give them a feeling that, hey, we are treated as people, not as workers, because we have our own needs as persons. Okay? Giving due importance to work-life balance. But right now, work from home is all the buzzword that's happening. Because many people, when they experience work from home for the past 2 years, ayaw na umalis sa work from home arrangement. And many companies, including us, already in that direction. Kung kaya naman magtrabaho sa bahay with the same results or even better results, why not? Because results is what we are all after. The bottom line, kung ano yung resulta ng trabaho mo, okay? Not how you did it. Okay. Part of dealing with people as complete individuals is also to review the compensation and the benefits that you give to them. Now, you have to benchmark, with the different institutions. You have to benchmark the salaries, the compensations, not just here in Cebu, but also in other parts of the Philippines. Kung at par pa, tayo sa median, meaning, are we in that acceptable area wherein our compensation, benefits, and salaries are accepted so that we will get the best people? Okay? So, kumbaga, mina-maximize natin yung resources natin so that hindi naman sobrang mahal, na nauubos naman yung profits natin, hindi naman sobrang mura, na yung quality ng mga taong nakukuha natin is hindi ganun kaganda. And that's why benchmarking, competitor checks is done on a regular basis. It's a common practice among hoteliers. Okay. Number two is make people feel worthwhile and related. Worthwhile and related. How do we do that? Ask their opinions. Okay. When I was in operations, I always make it a point, even now, is number one, to know the first names of all persons that I see. Meaning, yung mga tao ba? I mean, the employees, the staff, the team members. Not just by their nameplates, but memorize their names and their faces. It might be very hard because, like, we have approximately around 900 staff or staff and officers here in J Park. But the simple act of greeting them and talking to them and mentioning their name, that's already a very, very big sign. It's a very, very big plus for them. It means you remember their name, no matter in what department or position they are. Talk to them. Simple, chit-chat, kamusta na? Especially in big events or instances. Uy, kamusta yung pamilya mo during Yolanda? Do you need anything? Yolanda, sorry, during the Typhoon Odette. Or somebody who was temporarily laid off for several months, you can say, "Oh, welcome back. How are you? How did you survive?" And so on. Okay, Ask them about their families. Ask personal questions. Oh, I heard you just gave birth. Congratulations. So those simple tasks would make them feel worthwhile and recognized. Yun naman ang importante is to make the staff feel recognized and important. Okay? So recognitions and incentives are important. Yung traditional na employee of the month, believe me, it's very, very effective. Small recognitions, a pat on the back for a job well done, after a day's work. There's a very, very simple rule that I live to, commend in public, give praise in public, but discipline in private. Parang mga magulang, di ba? Ayaw yung napapahiya tayo sa harap ng tao kapag pinapagalitan tayo ng mga magulang natin. Pero gustong-gusto natin pinupuri tayo ng mga magulang natin in front of other people. Okay? So that's ganun rin ang mga adults basically who are working in a big establishment or a big corporation. Third is treat all employees with justice. And then also number 4, related, human resource management is not personal. It is objective. It is based on facts. It is based on rules. It's based on laws of the land and laws of the company. So how we do that is number 1, kailangan familiar tayo sa labor laws and laws that are applicable to our workplace. During the pandemic, kaliwat kanan, there were so many protocols, so many guidelines that we have to follow. And part of our job in the Human Resources Department is to ensure that those guidelines from the IATF, from the Department of Tourism, from the Department of Trade and Industry, from the Department of Labor and Employment, and so on, and now with OJTs from the Department of Education, kasama pa. Kasi now we are now interacting with OJTs from the different schools and training institutions. So we have to be familiar with those different laws and guidelines and protocols, and we have to cascade it to the different departments that are practicing relevant guidelines. And then aside from that, we have we need to follow mandatory and regulatory laws. Mga batas ba? Mga batas ng Lapu-Lapu, mga batas ng Barangay Babag, mga batas ng Pilipinas, mga batas ng Central Visayas. We have to be familiar with that. The different government agencies that we are liaising with, PEZA, DOLE, DOT, what else, Lapu-Lapu City Hall, okay, Lapu-Lapu City Health Office, Lapu-Lapu City Office of the Business, Office of the Building Officer, and so on. Marami. But the point is, we should be able to comply with those different mandatory and regulatory laws and jurisdictions. Okay? Kasi kung hindi, then we will be called out. And it's part of us, those that are in the Human Resources Department, to ensure, number 1, that we know that we are updated with those different mandatory and regulatory laws and guidelines. And number 2, that we follow and we comply with them. Okay? And how do we do that? And make sure na nakakascade sa staff. Okay? Treat all employees with justice. The first thing that we do is when we hire new employees and even OJTs is we orient them with the code of discipline or the code of conduct. What is JPark's rules and regulations? Kasi lahat naman, including sa house. When you start with the house, meron tayong rules and regulations sa house. Diba? Don't come late, don't chew with your mouth open. Don't talk to unless you're spoken to, diba? Always say thank you, always say welcome, always say please. So mga different rules, mga tinuro sa atin na magulang natin, you expound it into the level of work, and of a large family, as you term it, as JPark Island Resort. Diba? So we have to be familiar. We need to make the team members and even the OJTs and the interns familiar with our code of conduct and the labor laws. And then all should be treated with justice and equally. And how do we do that? We have tinatawag natin progressive disciplinary actions. Hindi lahat ng violations or alleged violations have the same penalties. Progressive siya. You have to titignan nyo yung reason behind why it was done. Hindi niya alam na ganun pala kailangan yung gawin? Was he equipped? Was he competent? Was he trained? Number two, does he have the right attitude, or maybe hindi tama yung fit niya sa trabaho niya. So again, very very sensitive, very very complex ang trabaho of people, of balancing, disciplining, but at the same time ensuring that the laws, of the land and the laws of the establishment are followed. A reward should be earned but not given. Okay. Mahirap kasi pag, just like yung mga bata, yung palagi mo silang pinipraise, even though they don't deserve the praise. You give them rewards even though they don't give the rewards. Eventually kahit hindi maganda yung ginawa nila, nire-rewardan mo pa rin. Same with the company. Diba? Recognition, compensation, incentives are given to those that are really deserving to be given the incentives and the rewards. And how do we do this? Many avenues can be done. Maraming pamamaraan, such as merit increases sa sweldo, annually or regularly on a maybe annual basis, based on their performance on the previous year, at dadagdagan yung sweldo nila. Promotions, those that are already on the right fit, competent, in terms of their knowledge, skills, and most importantly, their attitude, are given the chance to grow within the company. They are given more responsibilities. They are given more tasks, but eventually, they're also given more compensations and benefits. And lastly, opportunities for learning and development. How do we do this? Some are given the chance, to train abroad, probably, or given the chance to be exposed in different aspects of the operations in different parts of the Philippines, hindi lang dito sa J-Park, so that you would know, you can benchmark, kumbaga para silang exchange student. We did that before in Imperial Palace. Some of our staff and officers were exposed for 2 weeks, so that they would know the culture of Korea, because J-Park and previously Imperial Palace Resort, our top market were Koreans. But unfortunately, we are not familiar with the culture of Koreans. Yes, we might be familiar with the language, but culture is entirely different area, entirely different field. There's a new, I don't know if it's is it now part of your curriculum, say UCLM or UC in general, with regards to hospitality management and tourism, with regards to cultural sensitivity or cultural exposure to the different cultures of Asia and the world. Kasama ba yun? Not just language, hindi lang kayo tuturuan ng Korean language or Japanese language or Spanish or French, but exposing you to the culture of the French, of the Koreans, of the Japanese, of the Chinese. Kasama na, yes, sabi ni Miss Jessica. It's good.
Yes, sir. Yes, we already have.
Yeah, kasi thank you very much, Miss Ferraren. Because I specifically remember when I was invited several years ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, during one of the consultative meetings, with regards to the curriculum of hospitality management. One of the things I really pushed for was, to include in the curriculum, cultural sensitivity, because hospitality management, hindi lang naman Pilipino yung ine-entertain natin. We entertain different cultures. So cultural sensitivity, we should know how to interact with different cultures. Cultural exchange program, that's good. Okay? Cultural sensitivity is a broad subject in such a way that alam mo dapat hindi lang yung language, but the culture of the Philippines. A good example, for example, when I came here, in Cebu. Cebu has a different culture, for example, as from where I grew up in Manila. From your diction, from the way you talk, the hand gestures, the facial expressions. Okay, so what's a good example? Yung signal na ganito, yung hand gesture na ganito. Are you familiar with this gesture or this gesture? For us, it means okay or good or thumbs up, diba? Now it's even an icon sa Facebook, thumbs up. But in many culture of the world, this is a very, very bad signal. It's a taboo. It's a dirty finger sign. Tulad ng sinasabi ko rin sa mga OJTs during the orientation. And you don't do that in such cultures, such as maybe from different countries in Europe. In Japan and in Korea, you don't look to elderly people directly in the eye, and eye contact, and then make eye contact with them, because for them, you know, it's offensive. Nakakabastos ba sa kanila when you make eye contact to senior Koreans and elderly Koreans and elderly Japanese. There are still some, yes, no, Miss Cherry May, it's disrespectful for them. Okay, and that's why bowing and not looking at directly in the eye, but looking at the ground, it's a sign of respect. We should be familiar with the different types of culture, and yun ang ginagawa natin for our team. Going back again, no, reward should be earned. Teaching our team, exposing them to different cultures. It's one of our incentives, no, so that they would eventually grow and learn new things, new concepts, new ideas, not just information, but actually experience it. Sorry, experience it, because dati ang information pumapasok lang sa tenga, sa mata. Now, with the advent of social media and Facebook and Instagram, it's now basically experiential. You experience it, all five senses, including the emotions, no, including the brain. Diba? Ini-experience mo and you share it to your social media feeds. Okay? Dati ang status symbol, basta maganda ang relo mo, maganda ang sapatos mo, maganda ang bag mo, no? Okay ka na. Now, it's not that. It's the places that you've eaten. It's the places that you've visited. It's where you traveled, how you got there, where you had coffee, where you had snacks, where you had dinner. Those you share your experiences, with your colleagues and your friends. So again, social media plays a very, very big role, in our society now, and we've seen it, no? And then going back, and then and then lastly, and it's part of learning and development, exposing us to the different cultures of the different people or the different countries that we call as guests or tourists. Now, right now, everybody knows open na tayo sa tourists, di ba? Effective February 10, effective March 1, ang Korea, wala na silang quarantine when they go back. But unfortunately, other countries are not so open. China, totally closed pa. Ang Japan, you still have to quarantine for 3 days. There's an outbreak now ongoing in Hong Kong and so on. So marami. But slowly we're getting there. We now see a lot of Caucasians, Americans, Europeans, mga puti, and several or many Koreans as well, Asians, that are coming here, families, that are coming to J Park specifically, but basically to Lapu-Lapu and Cebu. You would see them in malls, I'm sure. Those that have gone in malls, you will see families, which is a very good sign, which is very, very encouraging. And then lastly, supply employees with relevant information, not just information, not just information, but experience. Tulad ng sinasabi ko, provide them experience. How do we do that? Do this through learning and development, through training. And sometimes if you see your staff, your team members that are, that is qualified, you can upskill, their skills, you can reskill them, and you can retool, just like what happened to me. I was given a new set of skill set. Before ang takbo ang trabaho ko is basically F&B service lang, but with a broader area of training, you need to have a new skill set. So I was reskilled, I was retooled, on how to become an effective and efficient training manager. Okay. Next slide, please. Any questions so far? Ano ba? Are we catching on, with the topic?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Human resources practices, top management involvement, top level involvement. Who's the top management? Basically, for our purpose, it's the owners, the executive committee. J Park is a 100% owned and 100% Filipino owned and family owned corporation. Hindi tayo publicly listed. Isang malaking pamilya ang nagpapatakbo sa atin, the Uy family, that also owns J Center Mall, that also owns, Probe Foods Philippines, that produces the famous Philippine dried mangoes. Okay, so top level involvement involves what? Knowing the positions that needs to be created, do we need this position for now? No, do we need a certain amount of competencies in some areas, for example? Just like what I mentioned, 5 years ago, we never had a digital marketing specialist. But we've opened that position. Why? Because there was an urgency to have someone manage our digital marketing, our social media accounts, Facebook, Instagram, so on and so forth. Now we are planning to have an account in TikTok. Maniwala kayo. No, because that's the trend now. No? Before it was di ba? Facebook, Instagram, and so on. But now everybody's using TikTok. So eventually corporations will have accounts in TikTok to reach deeper into the market resources, so that makikita natin. Okay. With top management such as the executive committee, the division heads, we formulate the different job descriptions, and amend them as needed. Way back before the pandemic, around 2018, we amended the different job descriptions of the different departments using what? Using a tool that was given to us by the ASEAN Tourism, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN Tourism, sorry, ASEAN Tourism Standards. And what is this? Yung competency matrix. Competency matrix and basically identifies the different sets of competencies per position. And they are given different types, and they are assessed individually and given competency-based training. Okay? Having a competency-based recruitment proved to be, having a competency-based recruitment proved to be very, very effective for us. Kasi nakikita na natin ngayon in detail kung ano yung kailangan talaga per position. Hindi siya vague statements such as, college graduate, 18 to 35 years old, must have good pleasing personality, 5'3" and above. Hindi na ganun. It's not based on such vague or even, for me, useless criteria. Because hindi ka nga college graduate. Maybe second year high school ka lang, but you were already exposed to 10 years for a certain position. 10 years ka na, for example, as a waiter. Alam mo na yung operations, or 5 years ka na, for example, handling digital marketing, even though you're not a college graduate, but you're skilled in that area, then you have the competencies, right? So hindi minamaliit ang college education, because that's one way of you to get your competencies, imparted to you theoretically before you go to the real world. Okay, but then again, yun nga, nag-evolve kasi, including human resources, including recruitment, including talent acquisition. Nag-evolve siya, and part of the evolution now is focusing on competencies, not qualifications, not criteria, not those vague descriptions na, college graduate, college level, 18 years old to 35 years old, 5'3", 5 feet 3 inches and above ang height, and so on. Pleasing personality, at least 2 years experience. Hindi na ganun. Hindi na ganun ang ball field. When we recruit, we look at the different competencies. One effective method also that we apply competencies is to apply them to formulate the job descriptions, tulad ng sinasabi natin. Job descriptions na hindi lang, to have an extensive knowledge of food and beverage. How do you do that? Diba? Competencies involves dapat you should be able to coach, you should be able to mentor, you should be able to teach, you should be able to assess, you should be able to train, you should be able to develop. Those are the different action words for having different competency statements or competency matrices. Okay. Another area of top level involvement is conducting peer reviews. Okay. Usually kasi when you hire and when you assess or evaluate staff, it's just basically the supervisors or the managers or the department heads. But right now, one good practice is to have the same position evaluate you or interview you, or eventually is also given an opportunity to be part of the recruitment and assessment and evaluation process. So if you're hiring a waiter might be a current waiter, or a waiter that's currently employed with us can be interviewing you. if you want to be promoted to a supervisor, you can be assessed by a current supervisor within the same department. Ang tawag natin doon is peer reviews or peer interviews, so that yung expertise ng position ng taong nasa position na yun is also given due importance. Binibigyan rin ng importansya yung kanyang inputs. Kasi siya yung nandun. Alam niya yung trabaho. Hindi ang manager, hindi ang department head, hindi ang GM, hindi ang owner. But a person within the same position is also given importance by letting him be part of the evaluation and assessment process. Okay. Third is communicate. How do we communicate with our staff? Ang dami. Many forms in which to communicate. Ang problema niyan is kailangan alam ba nyo, yung content ng communication yun yung importante. Okay? And how it is presented. Traditionally, for example, when I started when I started working 1992, wala pang internet, wala pang email. All communication was either face-to-face, mga daily briefings, briefings, orientation, and so on, over the phone, telepono ba, you verbally communicate. Or old school, you use memos, printed documents to communicate it and pass it on to the different areas that you wish to communicate to. Ngayon, ang dami. Diba? You have emails, you have group chats, you have Messenger, you have Viber, you have virtual, such as this, virtual e-learning or webinars, many forms of communication to cascade or to present the information that needs to be presented to the different staff. Okay. Sorry, wala ako. But other forms of communication can also be done, which is very, very effective. Number one is effective presentations. That's why when the OJTs came back and face-to-face training came back and face-to-face learning came back, I was very, very excited, because iba kasi talaga. I have nothing against virtual presentations or virtual conferences or virtual meetings, but if you see your audience, the people that you're interacting with, you see their faces, you see their actions, you see their eyes, you see their body language, iba talaga yan eh. There's nothing that's, because, this is also part of my orientation actually. When you communicate, usually, traditionally, dalawa lang yan eh. Oral or verbal communication, which is, diba? Or non-verbal communication, which is the totality of the body language, the volume of your voice, your diction, your eye contact, your hand gestures, the way you stand, your posture, and so on. 90 to 95% of communication mas naiintindihan yung non-verbal, yung body language, as compared to the verbal. And that's why importante during virtual meetings palaging merong video. Kasi pag boses lang, everybody will sleep. If you don't see the expression of the people that you're talking to or that communicating to. Here in J-Park, we have many forms in which we communicate. As I mentioned, traditional, di ba? Telephone, face-to-face, email, memos, and so on. But also other forms, We communicate with our staff using our regular town hall meetings. Every quarter, we have town hall meetings. What's a town hall meeting? Basically, it's a general assembly for all the team members and officers of the hotel. Preceded by the division heads, the owners, the general manager, the directors, and the different department heads. They present, they communicate to the rest of the team members, to the rest of the 300 or 400 team members that we have. What's happening, what's in store, what has happened during the pandemic, what do we expect after the pandemic when tourism is 100% open, what's happening with the hotel, what happened during Odette, what are we doing now during Odette, kakamustahin namin sila, o okay ba kayo, what assistance do you need. It's a town hall meeting or a general assembly. Other forms of communication, maybe also team buildings, segmented, to different sections or different departments, so that you can fellowship, because fellowship is one of the most effective forms of communication. Fellowship involves physical attendance, physical appearance. Mahirap mag-fellowship virtually. But when you have team buildings, you have fellowship activities. What are team buildings? Ang labas lang kayo. You have lunch together. It's already a fellowship. It's already a team building. Summer, it's summer. The entire team. You go to the beach. It's already a fellowship. Christmas parties are a fellowship. Monthly birthday celebrations is already a fellowship. That in itself, communicates a lot. And you can send messages, that you want to send, with your respective teams. Of course, bite-sized trainings, orientation during, orientation daily briefings, from the different departments, what has happened yesterday, what will be happening today, what have we learned, what can we do better, and so on and so forth. That's very important, because it keeps them connected. If you have daily meetings, or not really daily, but regular, siguro twice a week or thrice a week, at most siguro maganda everyday face-to-face briefings, and bite-sized trainings, which will be included in the briefings, that makes them more effective because it makes them feel important that you talk to them face-to-face, eye-to-eye. Okay? And then lastly, number 4, learn to adapt. How do we adapt? I already gave a very good example earlier with Elon Musk and yung kanyang, yung kanyang Starlink satellites that gives internet to Ukraine. Now, tayo ganun rin, Sa Manila, ganun na rin yung dinideal nila, with Elon Musk's company, is to give internet to the city of Manila using satellites. How do we adapt? Market research, benchmarking, tignan natin what the competitors doing. Okay? After Odette, here in Mactan, 2 resorts lang ang open. And we're one of those 2 resorts. And we had to drastically adapt our operations, to that setup na, there's a big possibility. Nangyari yung Odette, December 16. December 17, 1 week from now, Christmas Eve na. And true enough, because we're the only hotel that's open, it's one of those opportunities that pops out, Sira nga yung beach front namin, Gubay, dalawang seaside restaurants, the big trees, the acacia trees and the palmeras and the coconut trees were all, damaged, nawala ng foliage and so on, but we had the rooms, we had the restaurants, we had the security we have, generator sets that can power the hotel 24/7. Okay? Hindi tayo except of course pag naubusan ng diesel, but the point is we had the unique opportunity, which we grabbed. Nag-adapt tayo. We had that. 2 resorts lang sa Mactan ang open. The rest were closed after Odette. Some of them are still closed as of today. And we had that very, very unique. We were in a very unique place during that time. Yes, we were affected. Many of our staff were affected, our victims themselves. But slowly we rose up in such a way that during Christmas Eve, we were able to have Christmas Eve dinner party, New Year's Eve gala dinner, and so on. Natuwan-tuwa because wala nang ibang, even city hotels were all closed during Christmas. And that's one blessing that we were very, very grateful for. Okay? Best practices, learning to adapt is looking at the best practices of other companies, not other companies in the Philippines, but other establishments, in Asia, for example. One of the best practices that I have up until now that I'm practicing is try to research this, is using the balanced scorecard management principle. What's a balanced scorecard? I-Google niyo yan. Traditionally kasi is you are deemed to be successful or profitable kapag maganda yung revenues, maganda yung profit. Galing. Yan ang negosyo mo. Kasi dami mong revenues, mataas ang profit mo. What's profit? Basically, it's tanggalin mo expenses after ng revenue mo, that's your profit, di ba? Kumuha ka ng isang latang, for example, dilata, sardinas. You bought it at 20 pesos. You sold it at 30 pesos. What's your profit? Not 30 pesos. 30 pesos is your revenue. 20 pesos is your cost. Your profit is 10 pesos, correct? Correct? 30 pesos ba ang profit mo or 10 pesos? What's your profit? Ano yung
10
pwede mo
pesos.
10 pesos, no? That's money in your pocket. Kasi yung 20 pesos covers the cost. Yun ang cost ng good na binibenta mo. Okay? Balance scorecard doesn't just look at the revenues and the profits and the costs. It looks at different aspects of the operations of the hotel. And that's one best practice that I have, inculcated, with my team. Ano pa yung tatlo? Apat yan, sorry. Profit and revenues and profitability and cost is just one. What's the other three? Number one, masaya ba yung customers mo? No, customer satisfaction. Number two pala, sorry. Number one is profitability. Number two is customer satisfaction. Masaya ba sila? Pag masaya sila, then you might be deemed as successful. Number three, masaya ba yung staff mo? No, are they happy? No, profitable ka na, masaya na yung customers mo, masaya pa yung staff mo. No, and then number four, di kalidad ba? No, yung produkto at serbisyo mo. Are you giving out quality food, quality products and services? No, do you have quality management? No, is your products and services to the quality that the people expect? So if you have high quality products and services, the customers or the guests are happy, your people are happy, and you're profitable and you have high revenues. If all of those are balanced, then yes, you might say na successful ka nga, profitable ka nga, maganda nga yung negosyo mo. Isa lang doon na matanggal. Diba? Tanggalin mo lang yung, for example, masaya nga yung staff, masaya yung customer. Taas nga ng quality ng products and services mo, pero lugi ka naman. Talo pa rin, di ba? Tanggalin mo, hindi masaya yung customers mo, talo ka pa rin. So again, learn to adapt by knowing the best practices of the different establishments and the different hotels around you. And that's one of the best practices. It's an old principle, but it's very, very effective. It's a business management principle that started way back in the late 80s or early 90s. Up until now, it's still very effective. And what other best practices do we do? We already told you, di ba? Yung town hall meetings, yung staff surveys, annual staff surveys, we do that, so on. Okay. Other best practices, of course, is we need to comply with mandatory and regulatory requirements. Mga requirements ba ng gobyerno and other government agencies. And number three is we do competitor checks. Okay. Competitor checks doesn't just involve operations, it involves salaries, benefits, culture, even practices, and so on. Okay, can we take a 1-minute break? Are we okay? 1-minute break? 1 minute or 2-minute breaks, ha? I'll be back in 1 minute. Miss Karen? Sige, I'll be back in 1 minute. Thank you.
Jess, you can screenplay our marketing campaign, the video.
Valentin, please share screen the video that was shown earlier.
Hello. Sige. Sorry CR break lang ako. Okay.
Continue your sharing now, Sir Mike.
Sige ma'am, I will. Sige. So, any questions so far? Are we still awake?
Yes, sir.
I think the students are jotting down their questions, sir, as we will have a Q&A portion later after your
Later.
talk.
Sige. Understood. Yes. Sige. Thank you. So going back, no, now we have the 6 key functions of human resource management. No? This is might be a little bit boring lang, but I'll go through this very quick. No, this is kind of technical kasi. Okay, so the people management or HR department, human resources department, human resources division or development, no, as we term it, has several key functions. First is recruitment and hiring. Now we call it talent acquisition and management. Okay, we hire people, we interview, no, we look for the best fit, no, for the hole that needs to be plugged, diba? How do we do that? No, traditionally, which still works, is interviews. Okay, we advertise. During my time, when I was in Manila, the number one paper to look for when you need, no, for classified ads, no, when you want vacant positions, wala pang internet noon, wala pang social media, wala pang wala pang job street or so on, is read the newspapers every Sunday, sa Manila Bulletin ang pinaka-popular. In Cebu, ano yung pinaka-popular every Sundays pag naghahanap ng trabaho? Anyone?
Banat at Super, sir.
Sunstar. Tama?
Yes, sir.
Sunstar, no? Sunstar, ganun rin, no? You buy Sunstar and look for the classified ads every Sunday. But now, ang dami na. No? Just look at the social media account. No? Minsan naghahanap na rin sila. You look at the sites, no? LinkedIn, JobStreet, and so on. Jobs Finder and so on. You can already. And right now, during the onset of the pandemic, kahit face-to-face interviews and face-to-face recruitment, nagiging virtual na rin. I did that when I first started interviewing OJTs. There were a few that I interviewed virtually. Okay, hiring first is before. Ang tinitignan is yung qualifications. As I mentioned, medyo technical kasi to, and I'm not an HR practitioner per se, that I have been exposed to HR practices for the longest time. But this is what I have experienced, with my past experiences with other hotels. I've been exposed, to all major hotels. All of my previous properties were all major hotels. A 5-star hotel in Manila, and then 3 5-star resorts here in Cebu, or 4, including J Park. Okay, so face-to-face interview is still the most effective. And if you need to show them, if you need to demonstrate their skills, assessing them through demonstration and observing their skills is also very effective. And right now we are in that direction of doing competency-based recruitment and competency-based hiring through assessment. And how do we do that? Is we are the applicant, or the candidate, is given a set of tasks that he needs to do or he needs to comply. Sometimes demonstrate niya. For example, graphic artist, ipapakita niya yung portfolio niya, yung past na trabaho niya. How good is he? And sometimes he does it in real time. Papakita niya, sige nga, can you do one, a feed, a post in social media, that you can do within a matter of, let's say, 30 minutes. They demonstrate, we observe and demonstrate their skills. That's how we assess. And of course, sometimes we ask questions verbally, orally, and sometimes we even give them written exams or written questions they need to write down. But the hardest part actually is looking for the right fit. Looking for the right fit, with the right compensation and benefits. Kasi sometimes, with the different skills now and different skill set, mahihirapan hanapin yung right fit. because it's so the competencies now are so are so specialized, na very specialized na yung trabaho. As you mentioned, as a classic example is when you look for a digital marketing specialist, wala naman yun 5 years ago. No, when you look for a ano ba, data analyst, no, no, that was not even a job description 3 years ago. Okay, when you look for a data scientist, no, wala yun. It's not in our vocabulary 2 years ago. But right now, meron ng mga positions na ganon. No, no, you look at big data, you're already a data scientist. Okay, fortunately, with the tool that we have that has been given through to us, from the ASEAN tourism standards, we were able to formulate, recruitment procedures, using competency-based recruitment, which is very, very effective, which we found very, very effective. And how do we assess? How do we recruit? As I mentioned earlier, we ask them to demonstrate their skills in real time. We observe their skills. We ask them questions verbally, and we give them written questions. And sometimes we even call a third-party assessor to assess. Kung yung mag-i-interview hindi naman familiar sa nuances, for example, ng culinary skills, we call one of our chefs to assess. Can you do a test cooking, for example, para makita kung talagang competent siya and reliable yung kanyang sinasabing magaling siyang kusinero. If he's for example, a laundry manager, okay, can you do me a sample laundry plan on how you do the plan of the laundry here in J Park, given such population of our guests and our staff and so on. Number 2 is compensation management. That's where it becomes a little bit tricky. Because compensation management, number 1, involves actually is competition check. Titignan mo kung ilan yung competitor mo, if you are at par, with the compensation. Are you left behind or you're too high? Are you too low or you're too high, or just on the right area? Okay. Kasi iba ang compensation, of course, natin compared to Dubai, for example, compared to New York City, compared to Hong Kong. Iba ang compensation natin because ang cost of living natin is different. Okay? The different, of course, yung basic prices ng goods is different, But you have to compare yourselves, for example, anong compensation ng competitor natin sa Cebu City? Anong compensation ng competitor natin sa Manila? Anong compensation and benefits ng competitor natin within the same barangay, for example, or within the same municipality, for example, Lapu-Lapu or city. And you have to have you have to check if our compensations and benefits are competitive enough. When you say competitive enough, is hindi ba nakaka-turn off because masyadong mababa yung compensation benefits, ano ba, masyadong mura yung sweldo, or is it too expensive, such as nalulugi na yung company because of the high compensation? A performance management is a common practice wherein we can do performance assessments, or annual performance reviews annually or semi-annually. We can do it on a regular basis, for example. Okay, we can do it quarterly, but traditionally, most establishments do at least two performance reviews or performance evaluations, per year. Kumbaga meron silang annual, tsaka merong semi-annual. So every 6 months, they do performance reviews. What's a performance review? Is you sit down with the staff one-on-one and talk to them regarding their performance for the past 6 months, or for the past 3 months, for example, if it's quarterly, or for the past year, and give them feedback. Okay, and sometimes you have many there are many avenues on how to do this. You can do this face to face. You can do this. You just write it, and ask the staff to sign, which is the least effective. Kasi you could not communicate to him face to face personally because you would not see his reactions ba, no? Yung body language niya. Okay? Other benefits of performance reviews and performance management is, baka may training need. Meron siyang learning need, no? Okay nga siya sa area na to, no? The waiter might be okay in bussing the tables or wiping or delivering the food, but when it comes to communication, hirap siyang mag-take ng orders, no? Kasi he's not confident enough to take the orders or competent enough to speak in basic English, no? Basic English that's needed within the setup of the restaurant. Diba? So baka kailangan niya ng training, no? In basic English communication skills, for example. You know? So dun mo nalalaman yung needs, yung training needs, no? Especially during performance assessments. At dun mo malalaman kung ano rin yung needs nila personally. Ay, sir, nahihirapan ako because, I'm a single parent. No? So maybe you need to adjust yung kanya schedules. I have a mother that I have taken care of, no, because he's bedridden. No? So those personal needs you need to consider as well. No? And that's why we need to be very humane, no, when we evaluate and assess them and talk to them one-to-one. That's the most important way, is to talk to them one-on-one, no, during this scheduled performance assessment. But please take note, hindi lang dapat tayo nakikipag-usap ng one-on-one sa staff every 6 months or every 3 months lang. If there's a need, if there's an urgent need, if you see fit, talk to them in one, not on the context of performance management because merong incident or meron nangyari. Do you need to commend them? Pasalamatan sila. Do you need to discipline them? No? Because there was an incident that doesn't fit your standards or hindi mo nagustuhan. Okay? Then you need to talk to them. Number 4 is benefits management. Already mentioned, compensation and benefits. Usually, they are paired. No? So, pareho lang yan siya. What's compensation? Basically, it's your basic salary. What benefits is, ano yung mga benefits mo? No? Yung mga other benefits outside of your basic salary. Bonuses, incentive leaves, learning and development opportunities. Okay? No, yung other benefits, no, that is due to the staff. Of course, mga ibang benefits is mandated by law. 13-month pay, di ba? Yung ano pa ba? Maternity leaves, paternity leaves, no, sick leaves. Okay? Those are benefits that's non-monetary. Okay? But kailangan. Meron tayong tinatawag na single parent leave or solo parent leave. If you're a solo parent, you are entitled to a certain number of days, no? Aside from your vacation leave and sick leave, meron ka pang solo parent leave, no? So those benefits that we need to also extend to the staff. Other benefits tulad ng sinasabi natin is mga bonuses nga, mga incentives, no, mga rewards. Okay? Na hindi natin usually binibigay, which is management's discretion if they will be able to give it. Number 5 is professional development and training. That's my specialty, no? Learning and development and training. No, the most important one is identify. Identify natin kung ano yung need, ano yung learning need, ano yung training need nila. A simple example, tulad ng sinabi ko sa inyo kanina, di ba? One waiter might be good in delivering the food, wiping dishes, setting up the table, pero hirap siyang mag-order taking kasi hindi siya magaling mag-English. So yung kanyang development need is turuan siyang how to communicate in English in the setup of the restaurant, in the setup of order taking and getting, asking for guest satisfaction. Okay? Meron kang isang lifeguard. Magaling nga siya siguro sumagip ng lifeguard, no? Pero hirap naman siya, for example, hirap siya to cascade, no, his skills to his other colleagues, no, to train or to teach his skills, no, especially first aid. Okay, so again, no, you can assess and lead him to that one, no, in such a way that marunong siyang magturo ng first aid skills sa ibang tao. No, so training needs analysis is a very, very important role. Number 2 is how you deliver the training. No, yung traditional na ginagawa natin is yung classroom training. Of course, that's very basic. But other training needs, no, experiential, for example. No, especially here in J Park, we have a very, very nice training setup because we have indoor function rooms, which we can use as training rooms. No, the OJTs that have been with us, alam nila yon because all of them are oriented in a very nice function room. Tapos tinutour namin sila sa hotel. No, when I personally give my tool, I do it for at least an hour in all areas of the hotel, if possible, including guest rooms. No? But sometimes guest rooms are not included. Okay? For the simple reason kasi occupied. Okay? So again, no, experiential in training mo. Other trainings can be tulad ng ginagawa natin ngayon, virtual. No, which has its advantages but also has its limitations. And yung limitations nun is yun nga, yung body language hindi mo nakikita. I can see your faces, now I can see your photos, I can see your names, but I could not see your total you. How you look like, you know, yung taas ng kilay mo, no, yung pitik ng daliri mo. No, that's very important, di ba? Yung five senses ba? Okay? Yung pilantik ng mata mo, no, if I say something that might be agreeable to you or that might have offended you. Okay? So again, many ways, no, development and training. One effective method, no, that I have proven for development and training is to, just like me, to get experts to cascade, no, their expertise. No, by next week we'll be getting an expert, no, and we'll be teaching our staff in sales and yung mga secretaries natin and our supervisors and managers and department heads on how to compose business correspondences, no, how to write letters in a business setting, no, sa setting ng hindi yung mga personal na mga but in a business setting, no, and how to compose that letter. And it's a one-day affair. It's a one-day training. No, it's from 9 to 5. It will be done virtually, but the resource person is an expert, no, which is very good. Function 6 is health and safety. Yes, we have a separate health and safety department, especially now with the onset of COVID and the restrictions of COVID, yung mga lockdowns, yung mga protocols, face masks. No, I'm not wearing a face mask because I'm all alone here in the office. No, wala akong kasama. Okay? You know, but the protocols for health and safety, aside from health and safety, is yung physical health and safety natin at saka yung health and safety ng workers natin in relation to COVID and not related to COVID. Importante rin siya. Okay? So we do orient. We have health and safety officers that's usually going around, no, and even call out staff that are not compliant, no, with our health and safety standards. We have a separate audit for health and safety twice a year. No, before the pandemic, JPark is ISO certified, no, for quality management systems, which includes health and safety. Okay, although we are not certified for HACCP or Food Safety Management System as FSMS, but we do practice it since 2014. No, yung principles, yung guidelines, yung procedures ng HACCP has been practiced in JPark, no, especially in the kitchen and dining area, no, for the past 6 years. So for the past 6 or 8 years, pinapractice na natin yun since 2014. Sige, next slide, please. So that ends, no, yung 6 key functions of human resource management. Next slide, please. Current human resource management issues. No, we already discussed recruitment and selection. No, the basic process. But what's the issue? What's the basic one? But it's the most obvious issue of recruitment and selection. Hindi lang dito sa hotel yan, but it's nationwide. You know, yung scarcity of competent workers, no, scarcity of competent and trained and skilled staff. Bakit scarcity? Because we all know that once na train ka na, diba? Nurses, welders, electricians, architects, you know, even doctors, you know, would opt to go out of the country and be employed outside of the country. And nagkakaroon tayo ng brain drain. Matagal na yung brain drain na yan. Since the 70s or 80s, meron na tayo niyan. That's because of the very few or limited employment opportunities. And that's why ang pinupush ngayon ng gobyerno is entrepreneurship, no, maging negosyante ka, maging businessman. So that's one of the challenges. And how do we make recruitment and selection attractive? Is number one, to make sure that we are competitive. Yung salaries and benefits and compensation natin are competitive. And how do we do that? Through benchmarking, checking with other properties. Selection, yes, no, it might be a challenge, because right now, when it came to Cebu 1996, one of the biggest opportunities for us is ang daming talent pool. No, why? No, because iilan pa lang ang mga hotels and resorts dito sa Cebu. When I came here, it was just Shangri-La, Plantation Bay, basically ang nandito. And then after a year or so, pumasok ang waterfront. Pumasok si Marriott, pumasok si Radisson, pumasok si Blue Water, matagal na rin nandito, no, including White Sands, no. Other city hotels came forth. So ang dami ng the pie is getting bigger and bigger. But the problem is, no, yung ingredients ng pie, paunti ng paunti kasi lumalabas nga yung mga tao, yung mga talent pool. No, so how do you fill into that? We tap into the OJT pool, kayo. Those that are training with us. This is very, very true, and hindi ako I'm not exaggerating or telling a lie. No, but before the pandemic, 30 to 35% of our staff here in J Park, our 900 plus staff, 30% of that. So how many is that? 30% ng 900, ilan yun? Can anybody answer? 30% of 900, ilan? 300 plus, di ba? Approximately 330 staff or more than 300 staff came from the OJT pool. So meaning were former OJT themselves. No, and that's the reason why OJTs are treated with respect and reverence, because they can eventually be potential recruits, potential candidates, for the vacancies that we need to fill. Yung mga vacant positions, What are the vacant positions? All can be vacant positions. Okay. Number two, emotional and physical stability of employees, especially very, very important now during the pandemic. You would hear of stories of people getting depressed, people taking their own lives, people locking up inside their rooms, especially now during the elections, napaka taas ng negative vibes natin, and emotional support, mental support and psychosocial support plays a very, very important role, for here in human resources. And how do we do that? Again, number one is recognition and incentives, recognizing them for a job well done, recognizing their potential, recognizing their work, recognizing their abilities. Number two is team building, bonding, diba? Fellowship. That alone would release the stress. Activities, having different activities, sets of activities that would share the talent of other employees. Lately, we've had, out of the blue, one of our managers offered, "Sir, can I teach crocheting? May panggansilyo ba?" Of course, by all means. Now we have a small pool of team that is being taught on how to crochet. Because crocheting in itself, number one, stress reducer. Number two, a source of income. Then number three, also, because of the fellowship, you get to bond habang nagko-crochet kayo. And then eventually, you get to display, your finished product and be proud of it. That alone is already a very, very good, emotional and psychosocial support for our employees. It adds to their stability. Balance between management and employees, yes, very important. Okay? Kasama rin yan dun sa balance scorecard na management principle na sinasabi natin. Are the staff happy? Hindi lang ang management, hindi lang yung profits, kasi management usually equals profits. Pero yung staff ba masaya? Yung guest ba masaya? Dekalidad ba yung produkto at services natin? If all of those are in the positive, then there's a balance, between management and employees. And how do we do that? Is to make sure that we study our figures. We analyze the information that is given to us on a regular basis. Occupancy reports, for example, "Uy, sir, ang taas ng average room rate natin, 5,000 pesos. Wow. Yung katabi natin, ano yung average room rate nila? 3,000 pesos lang. Wow, ang galing. Pero ano yung occupancy natin? Sir, 10% lang for the past month. Sila, sir, 50%. So which one is better? Mababa yung rate nila pero marami silang guest, or mataas yung rate natin pero kukonti ang guest natin? Take your pick. Di ba? No, so again, you balance it. No, you balance all areas. No, no, in hospitality management or hotel and restaurant management, there's such a thing now as before, ang tawag natin dun is average daily rate, ADR, or average room rate, ARR. Now, ang tinitingnan is hindi lang yung average room rate, tinitingnan rin natin yung RevPAR, revenue per available room. Kasi there's a principle nga in hotel management na yung room na binenta mo ngayon, yung opportunity ibenta mo siya, wala na. May panibagong opportunity ka na naman for the next day. So kapag hindi mo siya nabenta today, that opportunity is already gone. But you will have another opportunity tomorrow. So ang target natin is as much as possible, lahat ng rooms maibenta natin for today. Diba? And that's why occupancy rate is very important. I don't know if you're familiar with that, no, but I'm sure you should be. Average room rate or average daily rate is also important, but equally important is revenue for available room. No, ano ang revenue ng lahat ng rooms combined, occupied and unoccupied? Diba? So titignan mo yun, may balance ba between the management and the employees? Training, development, and compensation was already discussed. Admittedly, during the past 2 years ng pandemic, training took a backseat, here in J Park, because it's not considered essential. We need to stay afloat. We need to survive. So ang target natin during the pandemic, during the first year of the pandemic, was to survive. And how do we survive? Is dapat hindi tayo nalulugi. Dapat at the very least break even. Is anyone familiar what a break even point is in terms of business and being an entrepreneur? What's a break even point? Anyone? From the term break even point, basically means hindi ka nalugi, wala ka ring kita. You're not at a loss, but you also don't have profit. You don't have losses, but you don't have profit. So basically, break even is if you sell a bottle of Coke at 25. If you bought a bottle of Coke at 25 pesos and you sold it at 25 pesos, you're not losing money, but you're not gaining money also. Correct? That's the break even point. If you bought a bottle of Coke at 25 pesos and you sold it at 20 pesos, lugi ka. You're losing by 5 pesos. You have a loss of 5 pesos. But if you bought a bottle of Coke at 25 pesos and you sold it at 30 pesos, then meron kang profit na 5 pesos, meron kang gain. Pero break even, you don't have a loss, you don't have a profit. During the pandemic, ganun rin yung ginagawa natin. We need to survive. So we need to cut down on most costs, ideally. But after the pandemic, especially now na nagbukas na yung profit, then slowly, we're not on survival mode. Hindi na tayo survival mode. Balik na naman tayo sa thrive mode. Nag-grow na naman tayo because now, tourists are coming. Okay, and how do we grow is one of the growth benchmarks is ano yung natututunan ng mga tao natin? What have they learned during the past 2 years? Performance appraisal, we already discussed, because performance appraisal, one of the issues of performance appraisal is it being done just for compliance, or is it done in such a way that it really serves its purpose to actually appraise and evaluate the performance of the employee so that he or she can improve in the future? Eventually, if they improve, then the performance of the entire department of their company improves with them. Yun ang main goal ng performance appraisals is continuous improvement or continual improvement. Palagi, we should all grow. We should not stagnate. Hindi dapat flat yung ating curve. Dapat pataas. Curves up. In terms of skills, knowledge, performance, lahat. Delivery of results, lahat. Kailangan yan pataas. Every day we learn new things. Every day we teach new things. Every day we practice new things. Maghanap tayo. learn 2 words every day. No? Dealing with trade union, I can say hindi applicable, no, because right now here in Cebu, unions and trade unions are not anymore as popular as it was during the 70s or 80s and even the 90s. Because what's the main reason na hindi na nagiging popular or nagde-decline na ang trade union? It's because for the simple reason na prosperous na ang Cebu. The compensation and the benefits of the employees are already at par, with the global compensations, with globally, even within the region or even within the country, at par na sila. So wala nang hinahanap ang mga tao, ang mga employees, and meron na kasing there's a substitute for trade unions, yung tinatawag nating employee management committees, wherein all the needs of the employees and the management are discussed within that committee without getting assistance from an outside party, such as trade unions. Okay. Next, please. This is again quite long for a slide, but I will just discuss key principles. Human resource planning process. Now, human resource planning basically involves treating the human resource division or department or development as a partner, as a business partner. And how do we do that? Is we assign specific areas for each business partner. For example, I'll be assigned to a specific department. I will see that the needs of that department are at least heard and addressed at the level that can be managed by the HR. Now, human resources planning ensures the best fit between employees and jobs while avoiding manpower shortages. So again, balancing between resources and cost and revenues. Hindi dapat sobrang taas ng iba so that the other one suffers. Mataas nga ang sweldo mo pero maliit naman yung profit mo. Mataas nga yung profit mo pero maliit naman yung sweldo ng mga tao mo. So there should be a very, very delicate balance should be maintained. And how do we do that? Again, as mentioned, we do constant market surveys, competitor checks. Iikot tayo. I-interviewin natin yung mga employees natin. We do employee surveys and then we assess them on their competencies. Okay. There are three key steps to the HRP process. I will not discuss them in detail again because they're very, very technical. But basically, what we're saying is there should be a balance between staff output, quality service, customer service, quality of the products and services, customer service, and revenue. Again, it falls back to the principle that I have mentioned earlier, the balanced scorecard principle. Competent managers and leaders would look at that scorecard. Masaya ba yung tao mo? Sorry. Masaya ba yung tao mo? Your staff, are your staff satisfied? Are your guests happy? Are the owners happy? Kasi profitable, yung business. And eventually, are the third party or outside parties happy? Kasi yung quality standard, yung quality ng products and services natin are at par with the rest of the industry, for example, or at global with the rest of the world. Okay. Can you go to the next slide, please? Next slide. Wala na. Okay. Sige, that's it. So, again, in that 1 hour and a half span of time, hopefully you've learned a few key principles and practices of human resources or people management, including learning and development, so that eventually when you graduate, you would know which direction or career you would want to go to. Because hospitality management, ang laking area niyan. Okay? Yung different aspects or facets of the hotel or the resort or the hospitality industry is a very, very big. Hindi lang hotels, hindi lang resorts, hindi lang travel agencies, Hindi lang tour operators, hindi lang restaurants, ang dami na ngayon. No, you have online restaurants, no, you have you have tour guides, no, that is accredited or not accredited, and so on. No, you can be an employee of the hotel, but you can build your own bed and breakfast, no. Ngayon meron ng Airbnb, di ba? That's a very very real threat, no, to the industry, no, kasi wala silang controls, wala silang standards. Airbnb is, you have a piece of property, a piece of house, a piece of small room, you can rent it out to somebody else. Walang nagko-control, walang nag-manage, no, walang nagre-regulate. Okay? No, but one of the unique selling points ng Airbnb, they're practically available everywhere. They're cheap. No, you can see their rooms virtually without going to their rooms and so on. So again, hopefully you can learn so that eventually when you graduate 2 years from now or next year, when already in your 4th year, you can know which direction you'd be going to. Okay, that ends my discussion. Hopefully may natututunan tayo. Dagang salamat and thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Sir Michael. Indeed, we have learned so much from your very intuitive sharing this afternoon. Now the floor is open to entertain certain questions or any clarification.
Alam ko medyo baka kapoy na kayo since you've been here since 1 o'clock, di ba? Any questions? I'm open to questions with regards to the topic, of course. Questions? Ask me anything about hotel operations. I'll answer to the
Questions, everyone. Going once. Going twice. But I believe, Sir Michael, that the students are enlightened already and educated well with your sharing, as it is very intuitive and very profound sharing. And even if all of us are very lucky to be graced by your sessions this afternoon. And now, since there's no further questions, let us now proceed to the awarding of certificate to our guest speaker this afternoon. Allow me to welcome once more our very own practicum coordinator, Ms. Maricel Iva Ferrara, to read the citation of the certificate.
Good afternoon once again, everyone. Good afternoon, Sir Michael, once again.
Good afternoon, Ms. Ferraren.
My most sincere thank you for gracing us in this afternoon's opportunity to learn for the trainees. Such a delight to hear from you once again. So allow me to read the citation. Certificate of Appreciation is proudly presented to Mr. Michael Venluan for sharing his expertise as a guest speaker during the webinar entitled Human Resource Development, a Home for Greater Opportunities Even in the Face of COVID-19. This is given this day, that's May 16, 2022, at Mandaue City, Philippines, assigned by Dr. Grayfield Tibahao as the Dean of the College of Hospitality and Tourism Management and myself as the Practicum Coordinator. A virtual round of applause, please, to Sir Michael Venluan.
Thank you. Salamat. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms. Ferraren.
And before we will start, may I request everybody to turn on your microphones as we're having a photo opportunity along with our resource speaker, Mr. Michael Venluan, for the documentation and for posting, especially in the upcoming Pakukawa accreditation. Let's everybody strike a pose in 3, 2, 1, smile. And that's it. That concludes our webinar this afternoon for HR, for Human Resource.
Thank you. Thank you, Jess. Thank you, Ms. Ferraren.
Thank you, sir.
Dagang salamat. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for this.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.